Elite Facts presents
8 game developers who've hilariously trolled pirates. 8. Spyro 3 Missing Gem. Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon was definitely a must-have among PlayStation 1 owners, with its open-level, 3D platforming environments, tight controls, and appealing graphics. As a way to avoid piracy, the game's developer, Insomniac Games, did something quite annoying to those who illegally downloaded their game. This game is unique in that it has a lot of anti-crack booby traps, checking for alterations to the game alongside the existing copy protection. One wrong bit of code and the trap is triggered. Some of the effects are as follows. The character Zoe will politely inform you that your game is hacked early on in the game. Random eggs and gems in levels other than the one you're in are removed in order to render the game unwinnable. The game deliberately crashes in odd and confusing ways, and the language in the European version changes randomly. It just goes to show that Insomniac Games doesn't play around when it comes to piracy.
7.
Sims 4 Pixelated. If you're familiar with The Sims, you're probably intimately familiar with The Sims. Yes, it's very strange, but don't worry, anyone who's played The Sims has looked at their character showering or using the restroom. Deny it all you want, but it's guaranteed that everyone who's played this has done this. That's why EA has always made sure to censor The Sims by pixelating their bathing suit areas. You're never in danger of being a pervert because the developers have already decided what's appropriate for you to see. So yeah, don't worry, EA has you covered for once. For The Sims 4, EA took their pixelation technology and repurposed it for an anti-piracy measure. Anyone with a bootleg copy of the game will see the pixelated squares of censorship. However, once they're there, they will never go away. Not only that, but the pixelation keeps growing and growing until your entire screen looks like a YouTube video from 2005 in 144p. Description still not good enough for you? How about it looks like you're trying to play The Sims 1 on an old battered VHS tape from the 1970s. You'd have better luck playing Dark Souls on a Tiger electronic wristwatch than you would playing the pixelated version of The Sims 4. You gotta hand it to EA, this was a pretty funny way to screw people over for trying to steal their game. It was almost as brilliant as their anti-piracy software built into the new SimCity. However, they really didn't need to add any anti-piracy tactics to that, as no one wanted to play that garbage to begin with.
6.
Crysis Warhead Chicken Gun. If you were one of the people to pirate this somewhat average follow-up to Crysis, you'll run into a surprise the first time you fire a gun. You'll discover that all the bullets have been replaced by chickens. Are the chickens alive? It's hard to tell because it turns out chickens experience quite a lot of bullet drop and soon hit the ground with speed enough to KO Mike Tyson. Needless to say, this makes the follow-up so much more enjoyable with how stupid it really is. The trouble with this anti-piracy technique is that it seems to improve the game somewhat. Shotguns fire a deadly spread of chickens, which is brilliant, and machine guns spit them out at a terrifying rate, and it's hilarious to spray away while your enemies shout things like "Arg" and "Stop that!" If anything, this is a good reason to pirate it. It'll give you a few hours of laughter.
5.
FNAF Extra Jump Scare. So, like it or not, Five Nights at Freddy's has reached critical acclaim. Now, say what you want about the sequels released, the first game did something that no other horror game on Steam at the time did. It took the player and put them in a position where they couldn't defend themselves and they couldn't run. All they had were a set of doors, a set of security cameras, and a limited amount of power that needed to be used carefully. Even though we're not fans personally, it was still pretty cool to see a game like this that somewhat resembles that of an old Sega Genesis game like Night Trap hit the Steam marketplace. Well, it was nice until they released a ton of ridiculous sequels. Up until that point, most independent horror games of the time were just knockoff Slenderman clones. But Five Nights at Freddy's managed to break that mold, and in the process create a new mold for other independent developers to rip off. With the game being developed by just one person, you'd think that they wouldn't take anti-piracy tactics into mind when creating a game. Well, Scott Cawthon knew better than that, and he implemented a nice little treat for those who illegally downloaded his game. As the story goes, a special version of the game was released on torrent sites. It's the same as the paid version of FNAF, but with one key difference. Every time you exit out of the pirated copy of the game, Freddy pops out for one last jump scare. All you had to do was throw a couple of bucks the developer's way, but now you're going to have to shell out more money to buy new underwear. Congratulations.
4.
Alan Wake Eye Patch. So Remedy are a lot less savage than other developers on this list, as they take a different approach to trolling players. Pretty much, if the game itself detects it has been pirated, it continues running but adds an eye patch. The patch adds some bonus personality to the game's Insomniac protagonist, though the lack of depth perception could get him in trouble when targeting demons at night. But let's be honest, it kind of suits him. A member of the Remedy team posted in the Steam forums to confirm the trick. Quote, "The crack detection didn't do anything evil, like sending over the user's email or IP address details, and didn't degrade gameplay in any way. You just got the eye patch and a loading screen tip encouraging the user to buy the game." Funny thing about this is that the eye patch makes a return if you pirate Remedy's most recent game, Quantum Break.
3,
GTA 4 Drunk Vision. So before its sequel eventually hit the market, Grand Theft Auto 4 was arguably one of the biggest games in the market. Back in the day, it was the top dog of the open-world crime genre. Now, with it being one of the biggest games on the market at the time, you have to imagine that Rockstar Games thought carefully about piracy. Well, they certainly did, as Rockstar is yet another developer to implement a simple but effective method of punishing pirates attempting to play Grand Theft Auto 4 without paying. If a pirated copy is detected, the in-game camera wobbles around wildly after a few minutes of play. Bonus points for any gamer that can get Nico drunk in-game with this screen wobble on and still complete a mission.
2,
Michael Jackson, The Experience, DS Vuvuzelas. Okay, who out there is pirating a copy of Michael Jackson The Experience on DS? Come on, own up to it. So as if it's not surprising enough that someone actually went out of their way to pirate something that could probably be picked up in a dollar store bin only months after its release, no offense to Michael Jackson, but that's almost always the case with these types of games. What's even more surprising is that the developer prepared for this, as they made certain that pirates wouldn't be able to have a decent experience, no pun intended, as the players who actually purchased the game. If pirates illegally downloaded this game, they wouldn't be greeted by Michael Jackson's amazing music. Instead, they're greeted by Michael Jackson's music with Vuvuzelas blaring over the top of it. They couldn't have chosen a more annoying instrument.
1,
Game Developer Tycoon. Oh, the irony. So for those of you who are unaware, Game Developer Tycoon is a sim in which you set up your very own game studio, manage resources, costs, and staff, and then release products to the world. Now, obviously, the premise of this game isn't something that will appeal to everyone. However, it can be a pretty fun game if you're into resource management games such as Roller Coaster Tycoon, Theme Park World, Theme Hospital, and anything else in that genre. Now, what the developers did with this game to combat against piracy is just deliciously ironic. The pirated version lets the player take their company pretty far, but once it hits a certain point, the player can go no further. Now, you're probably asking us to elaborate some more. Well, upon the player's company releasing their game, pirates find that their game will start hemorrhaging profits to piracy. The problem worsens and worsens until the studio you've worked so hard to create in-game inevitably fails and closes down. That's just hilarious. Did we miss any video game anti-piracy tactics you know about? Let us know in the comments below.
Thanks for watching another amazing video, folks. Subscribe for more from Elite Facts.